My husband told his secret daughter that I was a child-hatting monster who would ruin her life if she ever approached me, while telling me she didn't exist. He didn't realize I had just matched with her on a DNA app, and by the time he woke up from his nap, I had moved her into his man cave and thrown his clothes on the lawn. The notification sound was the standard chime, the one that usually means a package has been delivered or a spam email has slipped through the filter. It was January 2nd, 9 a.m. The house was quiet, the Christmas tree was still up, shedding dry needles onto the hardwood, and my husband, David, was in the kitchen making his famous New Year's recovery omelet. We were trying to start 2026 fresh. We had spent the last 5 years battling infertility, a war of attrition fought with needles, hormones, and tears that had left our bank account drained and my heart hollow. We had decided to take a break from trying. We were going to focus on us. I picked up my phone, expecting a coupon from Old Navy. Instead, the screen displayed the bright green logo of the DNA ancestry kit I had gifted myself for Christmas. New DNA match found. Parent-child relationship. I froze. I stared at the screen. My brain couldn't process the words. I don't have children. That is the defining tragedy of my life. I assumed it was a glitch, a cruel algorithmic joke. I tapped the notification. Match, Riley last name redacted. Relationship, daughter. Shared DNA, 50%. But it wasn't my DNA. The kit I bought was a duo pack. I had swabbed David's cheek while he was sleeping off a wine hangover 2 weeks ago, thinking it would be a fun way to check for health markers. I hadn't registered it under my name. I registered it under his account, which was logged in on my phone. Riley wasn't my daughter. She was his. David, I said. My voice sounded small, like it was coming from underwater. He looked up from the stove, spatula in hand. Yeah, babe, you want cheese in this. Who is Riley? The spatula hit the floor. It clattered loudly, egg batter splattering onto his socks. The color didn't just drain from his face. It vanished, leaving him looking like a wax figure melting under heat. He didn't ask, Riley who? He didn't look confused. He looked terrified. Give me the phone, he said. His voice was low, dangerous. You have a daughter, I whispered, the reality finally sinking in. You have a daughter named Riley. The app just confirmed it. He lunged. He didn't walk. He threw himself across the kitchen island. He grabbed my wrist, his fingers digging into my skin. It's a scam, Claire. It's a phishing scam. Give me the phone. I need to delete the account before they hack our bank. It's not a scam, David. It's a DNA match. I yanked my arm back, adrenaline flooding my system. Delete it, he screamed. He wasn't the man I married. He was a cornered animal. He reached for the phone again, his eyes wild. Give it to me or I swear to God. I turned and ran. I ran out of the kitchen, down the hallway, and into the downstairs bathroom. I slammed the door and threw the deadbolt just as his body slammed against the wood. Claire, open the door, you don't understand. He was pounding on the door now, the frame rattling. She's a liar, it's a setup. Open the door. I sat on the edge of the bathtub, my hands shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I looked at the profile again. There was a photo. It was a selfie of a young girl, maybe 19 or 20. She had dark hair, messy bangs, and big, sad brown eyes. I knew those eyes. I saw them every morning at 7 a.m. I gasped. Riley. She was the barista at the Roasted Bean, the coffee shop 3 blocks away. The sweet girl who always gave me an extra shot of espresso for free on the days I looked like I had been crying over negative pregnancy tests. The girl who always asked how my day was with a gentleness that felt out of place for a teenager. The girl who looked at me with a longing I had never understood until this exact second. She wasn't just a barista. She was watching me. Claire, David screamed from the other side of the door. If you contact her, she will ruin us. She's crazy. She's a stalker. I looked at the photo of Riley. I looked at the messages David had sent me over the years about how he wasn't ready for adoption, about how he wanted a biological child or nothing. I stood up. I unlocked the window. It was small, but I was small too. I climbed out into the side yard, shivering in the cold January air. I didn't care about shoes. I didn't care about my coat. I ran to my car, parked in the driveway. David heard the engine start. He ran out the front door, shoeless, screaming my name. I threw the car into reverse and peeled out of the driveway, leaving him standing on the lawn, looking like a man whose entire world had just detonated. I drove like a maniac. It took me 2 minutes to get to the coffee shop. I parked the car crookedly across 2 spaces and ran inside. The morning rush was over. The shop was quiet, smelling of roasted beans and cinnamon. Riley was behind the counter, wiping down the espresso machine. She looked up when the bell chimed. When she saw me, disheveled, panting, wearing house slippers, her eyes went wide. She dropped the rag. "Claire," she whispered. She didn't call me ma'am or customer. She used my name. I walked right up to the counter. I didn't care who was watching. "I know," I said. "I got the DNA alert. You're David's daughter." Riley flinched. She actually took a step back, her hands coming up as if to protect her face. She looked terrified. "Please," she stammered, her voice shaking. "Please don't yell at me. I didn't send the request. I didn't mean to match with him. I just wanted to know where my ancestors were from." "Why would I yell at you?" I asked, confused by her reaction. "Because Dad said." She stopped, biting her lip, tears welling up in those big brown eyes. "What did he say, Riley?" "He said you were crazy," she whispered, a tear escaping and rolling down her cheek. "He said you hated children. He said that if I ever approached you, or if you ever found out about me, you would destroy my life. He said you were a monster who couldn't have kids, so you hated anyone who did." The air left my lungs. It felt like I had been punched in the gut. Me, the woman who had spent 5 years injecting hormones into her stomach. The woman who had a nursery painted yellow in her house that remained empty. The woman who cried during diaper commercials. "He told you I hated kids?" I asked, my voice trembling. Riley nodded. "He said that's why he couldn't acknowledge me. He said he loved me, but he had to protect me from you. He said you were the wicked witch of the West, basically. That's why I only watched you from here. I wanted to see what you were like, but you were always so nice to me." "Oh, honey," I said, reaching across the counter. I grabbed her hand. It was cold and rough. He lied. He lied to both of us. I have wanted a daughter more than anything in this world." Riley looked at me, really looked at me, and the fear in her eyes began to dissolve, replaced by a confusion that was heartbreaking to witness. "But the money," she asked. "What money?" "The money he sends. He said he has to sneak it out. He said you control all the finances and you wouldn't let him give me a dime. That's why he could only give me cash sometimes." My eyes narrowed. "How much cash, Riley?" "I don't know, maybe $50 here and there, for groceries. I'm barely making rent on my studio. It has black mold in the bathroom, but I can't afford to move. Tuition is so expensive, and my mom, well, she's not in the picture." My brain was spinning. David didn't have access to $50 here and there. We had a joint account. We tracked every penny for the IVF treatments. "Riley," I said, my voice hardening, "close the shop, take your break. We need to look at some numbers." She looked at her manager, who was watching from the office. He gave a nod. Riley took off her apron and came around the counter. We sat at a corner table. I pulled up my banking app on my phone. 3 years ago," I said, scrolling back. "We refinanced the house to pay for the last round of IVF. We took out equity. There was a surplus." I found the transactions. ATM withdrawal, $500. ATM withdrawal, $800. Cash advance, $1,200. They were constant, weekly, for 3 years. "He told me these were for acupuncture treatments," I said, feeling sick. "He told me he was seeing a holistic specialist to help his sperm count. He told me the insurance didn't cover it, so he had to pay cash." I did a quick calculation. "Riley," I said, turning the phone to her. "Over the last 3 years, David has withdrawn $50,000 in cash from our joint savings." Riley stared at the number. She looked down at her worn-out sneakers, held together with duct tape. She looked at her frayed sweater. 50,000, she whispered. He gave me maybe $200 last year for my birthday. Where did the rest go? I asked, though I think we both knew the answer. David drove a BMW. David had poker nights twice a week. David had a closet full of designer watches he claimed were fakes he bought online. He hadn't been protecting Riley from me. He had been protecting his wallet from her. He had been stealing from our future to fund his lifestyle, using his secret daughter as an emotional shield and his infertile wife as a scapegoat. He was a parasite. I stood up. Do you have your things? My things. Pack a bag, I said. You aren't going back to that moldy studio apartment. Not tonight. But, David isn't going to be a problem, I said. David is about to have a very bad day. I drove Riley to her apartment. It was worse than she described. It was a basement unit with water stains on the ceiling and a mattress on the floor. I watched her pack her meager belongings, a few books, some clothes, a sketchbook. It took 10 minutes. Is this everything? I asked. Yeah, she said. Let's go home. We drove back to the house. It was 11 a.m. David's car was still in the driveway. He hadn't left. He was probably inside, frantically trying to figure out how to spin this, how to gaslight me one last time. I unlocked the front door. We walked in. David was sitting at the kitchen table. He had a bottle of whiskey open. He looked up when we entered. He had clearly rehearsed a speech. He opened his mouth to start the performance of the tortured soul caught in a difficult situation. Then he saw Riley standing next to me. He froze. His mouth stayed open, but no sound came out. He looked like a deer in headlights if the deer was also a narcissist who just realized the hunter had a machine gun. Riley, he croaked. Riley stepped forward. She didn't look scared anymore. She looked angry. She looked like her mother, whoever she was. Hi, Dad, she said. Claire and I had a nice talk. David stood up, knocking his chair over. Claire, listen, I can explain. She's confused. I didn't want to hurt you. Stop, I said. I didn't scream. I didn't yell. My voice was deadly calm. She knows I'm not crazy, David. She knows I don't hate children. David looked at Riley. I never said that, And she knows you aren't broke, Riley cut in. She held up the bank statement I had printed out at the coffee shop. $50,000, Dad. You told me you couldn't afford to help me with textbooks. You told me Claire controlled every penny and would throw a fit if you spent a dime on me. David turned pale. He looked at the paper. He looked at me. I gambled it, he whispered. I have a problem. I was trying to win it back for us, Claire, for the baby we wanted. We aren't having a baby, David, I said. We never were, because you were too busy spending our IVF money on blackjack and watches. I walked over to the counter. I picked up the suitcase I had packed for him while he was in the shower the night before. A premonition, perhaps, or just the subconscious realization that our marriage had been dead for a long time. I threw it at his feet. Get out. Claire, you can't kick me out. This is my house. Actually, I said, smiling a smile that didn't reach my eyes. It's my house. I bought it before we got married. My name is on the deed. You are a guest, and your stay has expired. I have nowhere to go, he pleaded. It's January, it's freezing. You have a BMW, I said. It has heated seats. Sleep in that. He looked at Riley. Honey, please, talk to her. Riley looked at him. She looked at the man who had let her live in poverty while he lived in luxury. She looked at the father who had lied to her for her entire life. I think you should leave, David, she said. She didn't call him Dad. He grabbed the suitcase. He walked out the door. He didn't look back. I locked the door behind him. I threw the deadbolt. I turned to Riley. She was standing in the middle of the kitchen, looking awkward and unsure. So, I said, I have a room upstairs. It was supposed to be a nursery. I never painted it, so it's just yellow. But we can paint it whatever color you want. You want me to stay? She asked. I want you to live here, I said. I have plenty of room, and I have plenty of espresso. We walked upstairs. I showed her the room. It was the room I had cried in so many times, mourning the child I never had. But looking at it now, with Riley standing in the doorway, it didn't feel empty. It felt like it was waiting. But then I had a better idea. "Actually," I said, "follow me." I led her down the hall to David's office, his man cave. It was the biggest room in the house. It had the leather recliner, the big TV, the gaming setup. It smelled like his cologne. "This room has the best light," I said, "and it has an attached bathroom." "This is his office," Riley said. "Not anymore," I said. We spent the rest of the day purging the room. We put his gaming PC in the garage. We put his ugly leather chair on the curb with a free sign. We stripped the walls of his sports memorabilia. By 8 p.m., the room was empty. We ordered pizza. We sat on the floor, eating out of the box, and we talked. We talked about her art. We talked about my job. We talked about how much we both hated David's omelets. For the first time in years, the house didn't feel quiet. It felt full. The next morning, I went to the bank. I removed David from the joint account. I froze his credit cards. I transferred the remaining savings, what was left of it, into a new account. I wrote a check for Riley's tuition. "Happy late Christmas," I said, handing it to her. She cried. I cried. It was a mess. 3 months have passed. The divorce is ongoing, and it's messy. David is trying to sue me for alimony, claiming he's destitute. My lawyer is having a field day with the bank statements proving his gambling addiction and theft. Riley moved into the man cave. We painted it sage green. She set up her easel by the window. She's getting straight A's this semester. She still works at the coffee shop, but only because she likes it, not because she needs to pay rent. Yesterday, we were sitting on the front porch, drinking coffee in the spring sunshine. Riley took a selfie of us. In the background, you can see David's BMW parked across the street. He's been sleeping in it for weeks. He looks tired. He looks miserable. I posted the photo to Facebook. The caption read, "New year, new roommate, new life. Finally got rid of the dead weight." David liked the photo. I blocked him. I couldn't give him a child, so he made one with a stranger and hid her in poverty. He thought he was clever. He thought he could keep us apart. He didn't realize that in the end, he was the only one who didn't belong in this family. Riley and I are doing just fine. And every morning, when I hear her moving around upstairs, I don't feel the grief of infertility anymore. I feel the gratitude of a mother who finally found her daughter, even if she took the long way home.
If you have made it this far and want to see more videos like this, then kindly subscribe and turn on notifications so you may never miss another story like this.